She was 17 years old, a life full of dreams, of endless possibilities. A girl with a bright future ahead of her, one she had carefully mapped out with hope and determination. She worked hard, made good choices, and stayed out of trouble. She was the kind of daughter any parent would be proud of, the kind of student teachers admired. She had plans, big ones. But plans mean nothing when fate hands you over to monsters. Junko Furuta had no idea that a single moment, a single wrong place at the wrong time would change everything. That she would become a prisoner, not in some faraway place, but in a house where the walls held secrets too horrifying to speak. That the people who saw her suffering wouldn't save her. That the world around her would go on, unaware that just beyond their reach, a nightmare was unfolding. 44 days. 44 days of pain so unimaginable that even the strongest of souls would have broken. She wasn't just hurt. She was destroyed, piece by piece, in ways that no human should ever endure. And the worst part? It wasn't done in the shadows, hidden from sight. Number. There were people who knew, people who saw, people who could have stopped it, and they did nothing. How does this happen? How does a girl so full of life, so undeserving of harm, become the victim of such relentless cruelty? This isn't just a story of violence. It's a story of silence, a story of how evil doesn't always work alone. Sometimes it thrives in the spaces where good people refuse to act. But how did it begin? What led Junko Furuta into the hands of those who would strip her of everything, leaving behind only a question that still haunts the world today? Welcome to True Untold Stories. We deeply appreciate our viewers and subscribers for your continued support. If you're new here, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more compelling and thought-provoking stories that deserve to be heard. January 18th, 1971. A cold winter day in Misato, Saitama Prefecture, Japan. A child was born into an ordinary family in an ordinary town, destined for a life that should have been filled with promise. Her name was Junko Furuta. She grew up in a home like any other. Her parents worked hard. Her two brothers bickered and laughed like siblings do. Life wasn't perfect, but it was normal, safe, predictable. By 17, Junko was standing at the edge of adulthood, ready to step into the future she had carefully built for herself. She was a senior at Yashio Minami High School, a name teachers spoke with pride. She never skipped class, always turned in her work on time, and had the kind of discipline that set her apart. While others wavered in their plans, unsure of what came next, Junko knew exactly what she wanted. She worked part-time at a plastic molding factory, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Every yen she earned was a step toward her dream, a graduation trip she had been planning for months. After high school, she had already mapped out her next move, working at an electronics retailer. It was a practical choice, a stable career. But her heart held a different dream, one she rarely spoke of. She wanted to be an idol. Maybe she didn't chase it with reckless abandon, but the dream lived within her, whispering every time she watched the stars on television. Every time she sang along to her favorite songs. She had the looks, the talent, and, more importantly, the determination. If anyone could make it, it was Junko Furuta. But dreams are fragile things. The world she lived in was shifting. On the surface, Japan in 1988 was thriving, an economic powerhouse surging forward into the future. Money flowed, technology advanced, and the streets were filled with opportunity. But just beneath that polished exterior, in the places people preferred not to look, there was something else growing. A darkness that didn't make headlines. Juvenile crime was rising. Gangs operated in the shadows, their influence seeping into everyday life, recruiting boys too young to understand the consequences of the path they had chosen. Violence wasn't just something whispered about. It was happening, right there, in the same neighborhoods where people felt safe. And in this world, the rules were different. Some people could do whatever they wanted. Some people were untouchable. Junko Furuta didn't belong to that world. She had no reason to fear it. But the problem with darkness is that it doesn't wait for an invitation. It finds you. And for Junko, it was only a matter of time. November 25th, 1988. A night like any other. The air was crisp, carrying the distant hum of a bustling city. But here, in the quieter streets of Misato, the night felt peaceful. The kind of peace that comes with routine. The kind that makes you feel safe. Junko Furuta pedaled home from her part-time job, her thoughts likely drifting to the small, simple things. Homework, her graduation trip, the future she was steadily building for herself. She had done this ride countless times before. Same route, same streets, nothing to fear. But that's the thing about moments that change everything. They don't come with a warning. She didn't see the eyes watching her from the shadows. Didn't hear the hushed voices of two boys, Hiroshi Miyano and Shinji Minato, lurking in the darkness, searching for their next victim. They weren't just troublemakers. They weren't just reckless teenagers looking for a thrill. These were boys with power, boys with connections. Miyano, in particular, walked the streets with a dangerous confidence, knowing that his ties to the Yakuza made him untouchable. And tonight, they had chosen Junko. It happened fast, a blur of motion, a sudden force. Minato lunged first, his foot striking her bicycle with brutal precision. The world tilted, metal screeched against pavement, and in an instant, Junko was on the ground. The pain must have been sharp, the shock immediate. But before she could even process what had happened, Minato was gone, fading into the night like he was never there at all. And then came Miyano. He stepped forward, all concern and kindness, the picture of a good Samaritan. His voice was steady, his tone reassuring. "Are you okay? Let me help you. It's dangerous for a girl to be alone at night. Let me walk you home." There was no reason not to trust him. She had no way of knowing that the man standing before her was not a savior, but a predator. That this was not an act of kindness, but a carefully crafted trap. With no other option, she accepted. And so, she walked beside him, unaware that with every step, she was moving further and further from safety. Then, the world shifted again. They didn't go toward her home. They went somewhere else, somewhere isolated. A warehouse, empty and cold, the kind of place where screams disappear into the void. And that's when he showed her who he really was. The mask dropped. The warmth in his voice turned to steel. The kind stranger was gone, replaced by something far worse. He spoke of his Yakuza connections, of what would happen if she resisted. And then he took everything from her. One moment, she was a girl riding home, dreaming of the future. The next, she was trapped in a nightmare she never could have imagined. And the worst part? This was only the beginning. The following day, November 26th, Miyano introduced Junko to his accomplices, Joe Ogura, Shinji Minato, and Yasushi Watanabe. They took her to Minato's house in Adachi, Tokyo, where she was held captive. To prevent suspicion, they forced Junko to call her parents, claiming she had run away but was safe. When Minato's parents were present, Junko was forced to pose as his girlfriend. Despite noticing signs of abuse, Minato's parents did not intervene, fearing their son's violent tendencies. Over the next 40 days, Junko endured relentless torture. She was repeatedly raped, beaten, and subjected to degrading acts. Her captors burned her with candles, inserted foreign objects into her body, and deprived her of basic necessities. Despite her suffering, Junko made attempts to escape, but each attempt led to more severe punishments. On January 4th, 1989, after losing money in a mahjong game, Miyano took out his frustration on Junko. He dripped hot wax on her face, forced her to drink her own urine, and beat her with an iron exercise ball. In a final act of cruelty, he set her on fire. Junko succumbed to her injuries, passing away after enduring 44 days of unimaginable torment. January 5th, 1989. The room was silent now. The screams, the cries, the sound of breaking bones, gone. For the first time in 44 days, there was no movement, no resistance, no pleading. Junko Furuta lay lifeless before them, her suffering finally at an end. But for the ones who had stolen her life, there was no remorse, no grief, only panic. The reality of what they had done was sinking in. A dead body was not as easy to ignore as a living victim. As long as she had been breathing, they had been in control. But now she was evidence. A problem that needed to disappear. So they set to work. A 55-gallon drum. Cold, metallic, unfeeling, just like them. They forced her inside, contorting what was left of her broken body, shoving her into a space far too small for a human being, as if, even in death, she didn't deserve dignity. Then they poured concrete over her, sealing her away, erasing her from sight. And when the concrete hardened, they dumped the drum in an abandoned lot in Koto, Tokyo, as if she had never existed at all. Days passed, then weeks, then months. The world outside kept moving, unaware of the horror that had been buried beneath its feet. Her family searched, pleaded, held on to hope, but hope had died on January 4th, trapped inside a steel tomb. And the boys? They continued with their lives. They laughed, walked the streets freely, made plans for the future, just as Junko had once done. They believed they had won, that the world would never know. But fate had other plans. March 29th, 1989. Hiroshi Miyano sat in an interrogation room, smug, arrogant, until the officers started asking questions. Not about Junko, about something else entirely, another crime, another act of violence. But guilt is a heavy thing, and fear can break even the most twisted minds. In that moment, Miyano made a mistake. He thought they already knew, so he confessed. Not to the crime they were investigating, but to murder, to the girl they had stuffed into a concrete drum, to the life they had destroyed. Just like that, the secret they had buried so carefully was unearthed. It didn't take long for the authorities to recover her body, to chip away at the concrete until they found what remained of Junko Furuta. What was once a bright, hopeful girl was now nothing more than a set of bones and fingerprints. Her parents were finally given answers, but no parent should ever have to receive their child this way. Then came the trial. The world listened in horror as every agonizing detail was revealed, the torture, the violence, the sheer inhumanity of it all. The streets filled with outrage. The people demanded justice. But justice never truly came. Hiroshi Miyano, the ringleader, received only 20 years in prison. Joe Ogura, 5 to 10 years. Shinji Minato, 5 to 9 years. Yasushi Watanabe, 5 to 7 years. A few years in prison for 44 days of horror. A few years for a life stolen, dreams shattered, innocence destroyed. A few years, and then they would walk free. Junko Furuta never got to walk free, and the world has never forgotten. Do you think this is enough justice for this cruelty? What would you have done if you were the judge? Let us know your answer in the comments section. Junko Furuta's story did not end with her death. It did not end when her killers walked free. It did not end when the concrete drum was cracked open, revealing the horror that had been hidden for months. Her story lives on. It lives in the whispered warnings of parents telling their daughters to be careful. It lives in the anger of those who read about her and realize how little justice was served. It lives in the quiet moments when people wonder, how could this have happened? Because this was not just a crime. This was a failure of a society that turned away, a failure of a justice system that treated a life as if it were worth no more than a few years behind bars, a failure of everyone who saw something was wrong and did nothing. Minato's parents saw the bruises, heard the muffled cries, watched a girl slowly waste away before their eyes, and they stayed silent. The police, who had been given a tip about a kidnapped girl in that very house, knocked on the door, accepted a lie, and left, while Junko Furuta lay broken just a few feet away. And the law that was supposed to protect the innocent, it let monsters walk free. This wasn't just an isolated tragedy. It was a warning, because Junko Furuta was not the first, and she was not the last. Her story forces us to ask, how many other voices have gone unheard? How many victims have been erased, buried beneath fear, indifference, or a system that prioritizes leniency over justice? Junko Furuta never got to grow up, never got to chase her dreams, never got to see the life she'd worked so hard for. But her story refuses to be forgotten. And maybe, just maybe, that is where justice truly begins. If this story moved you, please like, comment, and share this video to spread awareness. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for more true untold stories. Let Junko's story be a catalyst for change and a reminder to protect the vulnerable among us.